Are you searching for a reliable opening as white in chess? Look no further than the London system, a versatile and solid opening that can give you a strong position right from the start. In this video, we'll take you through the key ideas and strategies behind the London system, as well as some common variations. Get ready to add a powerful weapon to your opening repertoire. The London system starts with the moves d4, d5, bishop f4, knight f6, and e3. Now, black has three main replies. He can play pawn to e6, followed by bishop to d6, preferring the trade of bishops. He can play pawn to c5, which would be a more aggressive line, or he could play bishop to f5, developing his leg squared bishop, just like how we did for our dark squared bishop. So let's look at the first line, which is the most common, pawn to e6. We play knight to f3, normal developing move, and in the London system, as white, we want to take control of the e5 square. This square is very important for us, and we want to put as many pieces as possible to control this square, and later on, our knight will even jump to e5. This is because if black is able to mobilize his pieces and play e5 himself later on, it would be not a great thing for us, because by doing so, black is opening up the position and his leg square bishop will be able to develop freely, and we do not want that to happen. So this is a very common setup in the London system. Our pawn structures are placed like that, and it's normally called a pyramid pawn structure because of the pawns are formed. This structure is very solid for white, and it is not easy for black to break through in the center besides with e5. So knight c6, knight bd2, and now black plays bishop d6, offering a trade of bishops. And here I would suggest we drop back our bishop just one move, the bishop g3, because now if black trades the bishops, capture back with our h-pawn, and the h-file, we have access of the h-file for our rook. Later on, we can even play bishop to d3, and we can put pressure on the h7 pawn. So if black castles kingside, we now have tremendous pressure on his king, and we can look to attack his king easily. So black doesn't capture and play castle. Now we play bishop d3 as well, and our bishop on d3 is really well placed because later on we'll have attacking opportunities on the king side with our strong bishop here. And just a pro tip for you guys, we always want to play the move c3 first before we play bishop to d3. This is because imagine if our pawn is not on c3 now and on c2. Imagine if our pawn is on c2, black can easily play c4, taking away our bishop. Because our pawn is on c2, we cannot retreat back the pawn this way, and if we retreat back the bishop on e2, we no longer have control and access of this diagonal, which is why it's very important for us to play pawn to c3 first and completing this pyramid structure, which is another key concept in the London system. Now black plays queen to e7, and as I mentioned, he wants to try to break through with the pawn e5, because let's say if we play a careless move, castle, black can easily play pawn to e5, and he opens up the position easily, and we lose our edge as white because now his bishop, mentioned earlier, can be brought into the game easily. So we want to prevent that from happening, which is why we play knight to e5 now. Our knight jumps to e5 to create an excellent outpost, and this prevents black from pushing the pawn up to e5. So in this position, black usually would not look to capture on e5, because if he captures with the knight, we capture back with the pawn, and now we fork his pieces with our pawn because our bishop defends our pawn as well. And if he captures with the bishop, we capture back with the pawn again, we hit the knight has to go back here. Now all we have to do is just defend our e5 pawn now, because he has two knights attacking. We can do so by playing pawn to f4, very aggressive defending the pawn, and in this position, we have excellent attacking chances with, for example, a move like queen to h5 on the next move, threatening checkmate on h7. And black's position isn't great because his pieces are kinda awkwardly placed. His bishop cannot develop this way, and the only way his bishop can develop is by playing b6, bishop b7, and even then, his bishop is still blocked by his knight and his pawn. Usually, black would not capture our knight on e5, and let's say he plays a move knight to d7. Now, black brings another attacker to e5, and as mentioned, e5 would be a highly contested square in the London system, so just always remember the importance of the e5 square. And now, following a series of exchanges, we now find ourselves with a brilliant tactical trap. Take a moment and pause the video if you like to try to figure out the tactical blow is. This brilliant tactical trap involves bishop takes h7, sacrificing the bishop. He has to take with the king, and now we go with queen to h5 check. The king has only one square to go to retreat to g8, and now here comes the second tactical idea, which is knight to e4. The whole idea of knight to e4 is black cannot capture because the queen is hanging the pin, and now our knight attacks the queen, and on the next move with a tempo, our knight would jump to g5, threatening checkmate on h7. So black has to move his queen out of the way, and if he plays a move like queen to e7, now black is completely lost because we just go knight to g5 and we threaten mate the next move. Can play his rook up, but we just give check and then followed by checkmate. So black cannot retreat his queen to e7. He has to move his queen somewhere else. So let's say he plays queen to c4, attacking our knight. Again, we play knight to g5, threatening mate in 1. Let's say he moves his rook out of the way. We capture this pawn on f7 first, he can go back, and now we can easily capture the bishop on d7. We are up 2 pawns, and the black's king is really weak, and we can easily continue our attack on the weakened king side. So this was the first variation in the London system, and this was the brilliant tactical trap with bishop takes h7 shown. If you guys are enjoying content like this, please smash the like button and subscribe to our channel. It helps us create more high quality chess videos that help players like you improve chess games. Now, let's move on to the second variation where black tries to be aggressive with pawn to c5. The whole idea is black wants to play his queen to b6 and attack our pawn on b2. Since our bishop already left from c1 to f4 and we played pawn to e3, there's no way for a bishop to go back the pawn. But don't worry, because we just, again, normal development with knight to f3, black plays queen to b6. Now, the variation I would recommend you guys to play is knight to c3. This is called the London system poison pawn variation, because after black captures our pawn on b2, the pawn is poisoned due to the following series of moves where we will gain a huge advantage. So firstly, we play knight to b5, threatening to go knight to c7, check, and forking the rook. Black cannot capture our knight because our bishop on f1 protects the knight. So the only way to defend the c7 square is by playing knight to a6. And now here comes trap number 2. As mentioned, this was the poison pawn variation, so we have an amazing tactical resource in this position as well. And pause the video if you would like, try and find this tactical idea. The move here now is rook to b1. The rook attacks the queen, and the queen has not many moves to play. In fact, she only can play queen takes a2 here because our knight on b5 that we played earlier on covers the a3 and c3 squares as well. And now we move our rook back to a1, attacking the queen. Again, the queen only has one move to go, cannot go to queen c4 because our bishop, the queen has to go back to b2. Now the whole idea with this poison pawn variation is, even though black has captured 2 pawns, now here comes the tactical motive with rook takes a6. Because our pawn is no longer on a2, our rook is now able to capture the knight, removing the defender from c7, and after captures, we go knight c7 check, forking king and the rook. King goes to the side, and we capture the rook on a8, and we win a piece overall. This is the poison pawn variation, and it's a really nice line with tactical resource that we have in the trap on the black's queen to be able to counter your opponents who try to play more aggressive from the start as black. Now, let's move on to the third line, which is bishop to f5. Black looks to develop the bishop before playing e6 so that his bishop is not stuck on c8 and he gains more space with the bishop. Now, I would highly recommend white to play pawn to c4. So this kind of transposes the game to a queen's gambit with d4 and c4, and the whole idea now is, since the bishop went to f5 and is no longer on c8, we are looking to play queen to b3 and attacking the pawn on b7, similar to what black tried to do to us earlier on. And because we are playing white and in this London system, he is unable to do the same with the poison pawn variation earlier on as what we did to black. So let's say black tried to defend with c6, we play the queen up, queen to b3, and now the only ways for black to defend his pawn on b7 is by playing queen to c8, queen to d7, or queen to b6. Both the moves queen c8 and queen d7 looks awkward because if he goes queen to d7, now the knight, it takes away the developing square from the knight. And if he goes queen to c8, the queen is awkwardly placed, and even after knight to d7, the queen and bishop are not connected. Usually, black will play queen to b6, challenging our queen and offering a queen trade. And now here, push our pawn up to c5, attacking the queen. Now black has to make a choice. If he retreats back, just capture the pawn. And he cannot play queen to a6 because our bishop controls that square. The only available options for him are to exchange queens or play queen to a5 check. If he plays queen to a5 check, no problem because we just develop our knight while blocking the check and the threat still remains with queen takes b7. So black will most likely capture our queen with the queen trade. We capture back with the pawn, and even though our doubled pawns on the b file looks weak, this is actually a really good position for white because we have this open a file now and we're looking to expand, push up our pawns and expand on the queen side to gain a huge advantage. And it's really easy to do so, which you guys can see in the next few moves. Let's say black plays e6, normal developing move. Now we develop our knight. Knight is 3, develops his bishop, and now we push up our pawns to b4, looking to go to b5 next. Black can try to stop our pawn push with pawn to a6. However, it's useless because we go pawn to b5 anyways. The idea here now is he can never capture back the pawn this way with the a pawn because the rook is under pin, and we utilize the open a file with our rook. So if he captures back with the c pawn, now we have two options. We can capture back with the bishop with check, or we can capture back with the knight. As mentioned, he can never capture back our piece because his rook is under attack. So doesn't matter what we capture our piece back, we'll be able to already gain an advantage here. For example, with knight takes b5, and now we're looking to go knight c7 check, forking the rook. However, if you do not fancy a queen exchange so early into the game, you could always, instead of playing queen to b3, you could always develop the knight this way instead with knight to c3 and look to develop normally as how we did, and later on you can also utilize the c file with your rook. That's all for today's video on the London system. And mastering the key principles and tactics we've discussed earlier, you'll be well on your way to success on the chessboard with this opening. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking it and subscribing to our channel for more chess content. In the comments below, let us know which variation of the London system you enjoyed the most or which trap was your favorite. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.